Tak, pěkný podvečer, dear guest, Mr. Hammer. Tak vy jste měli příležitost vlastně jako první vidět ten surový stav toho domu. V podstatě tak jak už to bude, samozřejmě jako každá stavba tohoto rozsahu to má mírné vady a nedodělky, které se budou postupně odstraňovat, ale už víme ty další termíny, takže někdy ke konci února bychom měli dělat vernisážkovou výstav, které měly být finálně dokončeny. Dneska to mám zatím z náznaku, protože z bezpečnostních důvodů a jiných to nešlo dokončit, ale jakmile se bude dům uzavírat v té stavební části, tak se bude doplňovat i ta expozice, je to nový konec února. A další velký bod, který vás bude jako Černopoláky, nebo předpokládám, všichni říkají, máte vzpomínku na školku, tak jste asi Černopoláci, zajímat je otevření zahrady. Zahrada bude vlastně dokončena na konci dubna a na 16. května plánujeme slavnostně otevření té zahrady, která by měla být veřejně, nebo bude veřejně přístupná a bude to mít tady novou propojku mezi Drobného a Černopolní. Bohužel to nebude bezbariérové, protože jak schody nahoře, tak schody dole být musí, ten terén je složitý a strmý, ale ta veřejná propojka bude, takže můžete se těšit, že budete moc kolem a budete běhat téměř denně. Tak funguje ta propojka přes běhat po Löw-Beeru, ale my se to dobře takový příjemnější, že ten park není tak turistický a budete mít tuhle možnost. To jsou ještě body, které nás čekají. Já věřím, že jste si udělali ten nádech té krásy toho domu a teď bude na muzeu města naplněn aktivitami a právě první aktivitou, jak mi tady říkal, že jsou první, tak já dokonce si myslím, že to byl i poslední, který končil dům, než se začal opravovat, protože dělával aktivity otevřeného domu a podobně a je to zpátky první jako jeden z významných partnerů a roli byli muzea města Brna. Takže já děkuji meetingu za uspořádání dnešního setkání. Mr. Hammer can good lecture a vy si užijte tu nohlesu a budou viděli pro dnešní večer.
Vážený pane předsedy, vážené dámy, vážení pánové, jsme si prostřed toho našeho programu, ale velmi rád poděkuju. A právě panu řediteli a muzeu města Brna za to, že my jako Festival Meeting Brno jsme se mohli stát součástí celého toho projektu a té žádosti na norské fondy, z nichž ze značné části tahle rekonstrukce byla hrazena. Stejně tak se budeme těšit na spolupráci další a vzhledem k tomu, že už se vlastně téměř 10 let tomu, co tady bylo nazýváno česko-německo-židovským dialogem věnujeme, tak budeme rádi, když se tomu na tomto místě, které tady se jmenuje Centrum dialogu, budeme moci věnovat i nadále. A teď už dovolte, abych vás pozval na tu část, kvůli které věřím, že jsme leckeří z nás přišli, a to je část, kterou si vzal za své Ivo Hammer, jakožto reprezentant rodiny Löw-Beer a Tugendhat. V první části toho, co nás teď čeká, bude mít Ivo svůj příspěvek, poté bude následovat drobný prostor pro vaše případné dotazy. Neváhejte se zeptat, využijte příležitosti, že tady Iva máme, a poté se k němu přidá Táňa Klementová a než jsme v centru dialogu, tak oni spolu budou vést, věřím, že velmi přátelský a neformální dialog, který nás potom bude inspirovat dál. Takže teď už dovolte, abych předal slovo Ivo Hammerovi. Ivo, vítěze.
Děkuji mir für diese freundliche Einladung. And I continue in English. I will speak slowly so you can understand. I hope so. And especially greeting a child listening to me, which is a special pleasure for me. Of course, I would like to thank Meeting Brno for this kind invitation, and I feel myself especially honored because it's seemingly the first event after the official opening of the house, which is dealing with dialogue. And I hope this will be a real dialogue, and if you have questions after my little introduction, I'm ready to answer as far as I can. And I do it only short, this introduction, because the main point then will be the discussion or the dialogue with Táňa Klementová. And of course, after this dialogue, you have the possibility to answer questions. I'm speaking, as Peter told me yet, as far as I understood Czech, as a representative of the Löw-Beer and Tugendhat family, being the husband of the youngest daughter of Grete Tugendhat. I'm not Jewish, but I feel as a descendant of the perpetrators, the German perpetrators, a special responsibility to make the memory of the history living. And before I start my own speech, I want to speak my wife, as she did 2 years ago in the opening of Meeting Brno Festival in Brno. There, in this time, she was not able to come because of Corona. So let me see if I can start it.
Ale bohužel mám mluvit česky jako moje rodiče. Das 5. Meeting Brno mit dem Motto Step Out legt den Fokus auf Selbstreflexion und Selbstbewusstsein als Voraussetzung einer Umeninstitution.
No, I continue reading in English the text she's speaking. So you have more from it, as perhaps only a few people of you will understand the German text. So, the 5th meeting in Brno with the motto Step Out focuses on self-reflection and self-confidence as a prerequisite of a responsible civil society. A civil society with responsible citizens must be the goal of every democracy. Collective self-reflection and self-confidence are only possible if a community deals with its roots. Brno's cultural roots are not only Czech, but also German and Jewish. It is precisely this diversity that contributed to the city's great prosperity in the interwar period. Meeting Brno is an important event, especially today, when ethnic, religious and cultural differences are often seen not as a wealth from which one can draw and learn, but as a danger. History does not repeat itself, but structural elements can repeat themselves. In the face of a crisis written present, more than ever, there is a great risk of relapse into nationalistic, xenophobic and authoritarian societies. In the 1930s, a deep economic crisis was one of the prerequisites for German Nationalsozialism. The blame for the crisis was not sought in the social conditions in a society in which a few rich faced an army of poor and unemployed. The blame was put on the so-called others, the Jews. Today, the others are predominantly Muslims, refugees, and asylum seekers. In order to be immune to populist politics, it helps to deal with one's own past as well as with the cultural diversity of the present. With this in mind, I wish Meeting Brno every success. I will tell my wife. She's at the moment lecturing at the university in Innsbruck, therefore she can't be here. And my son, who should represent the family, as I'm very old now, he is speaking in the Austrian Parliament, you know, and there is a lot of climate issues, and he's the president for the Climate Commission of the Parliament. So, Grete Tugendhat's aunt, Cecilia Löw-Beer, called Zilli, was married to the lawyer Cornelius Hože, called Cornel, co-owner, together with Rudolf Löw-Beer and Max Kohn, of one of the largest cement factories in Central Europe at the time, in Malomerjice. Yeah, wait a moment. Yeah. I show you this kinship diagram to understand a little bit the relations. Is there something
pointer?
to point?
No pointer.
Okay. Here you see Moses Löw-Beer and his wife Katharina Adler. He is the founder of this big company, perhaps you know, of the Moses Löw-Beer company, who started coming out from the ghetto in Boskovice and started this big company first in Svitavka and also in Brno. And this couple had 10 children, and one of these children was Salomon, and the other one was Max, and this is the descendant from which Max with his wife Paulina or Pavla Löw, and they had 6 children. First 3 daughters, which was in this time nearly a catastrophe. And then 3 sons came. And the 3 daughters, the first one was Anna Münch, of course, née Löw-Beer. She married unhappily Heinrich Münch. She loved another man, but she couldn't get him. And she succeeded to emigrate in '39 and landed in asylum in Haiti, where she committed suicide with 72 years. And the next one was Evelina, Eva, called Eva, née Polak. She married Theodor Polak. As you see, this is in the next year, 1858, it's Anna Münch, and then 1859 was Evelyn was born, and she married Theodor, and they emigrated to Biala, which was then Bilic. You know, we are in the Austrian Hungarian Empire, and now today it's Poland. And there they had a factory for screws, for instance, and other factories. And then the youngest daughter was exactly Cecilia, called Zilli Hože, born in '64, and Eva Polak, not to forget, died very early in 1925. And Theodor even earlier in 1912. Zilli, born in '64, married Cornelius Hože, a lawyer. Táňa knows more about this family, and she will tell you. we are just at the beginning of research. We don't even know where the name Hože is coming, but perhaps we can discuss this a little bit. And they lived together up to 1936 when Cornelius died. Cornelius was the co-owner together with Rudolf and Max Kohn of this Maljomice cement factory, as I told you yet. And they had one son, Max, and Max married a girl, 20 years old girl called Friederike Keller, or the Friedrichka Kellerova. And yes, and the fate of them is quite sad. So just to tell you, there's something, there's missing a sheet. Here's it. Well, I can tell you just by that Cecilia Hože, I show you the images. First, we don't have, as far as I know, an image of Moses. If I remember right, in Svitavka, in the year 2000, when I have been there with Paul Löw-Beer on his 90th birthday, I have seen a photograph in the director's room with Moses and his collaborators. And but we have an image of Katharina Löw-Beer, his wife, born Adler, called Gütel. And here you have the factories in Svitavka, and you have an image of one of the houses, of the Löw-Beer houses in Boskovice. Yeah, perhaps it's better to shut down the lights. It's a good idea, yeah. Well, and here we have Max Löw-Beer, as I showed you before, with his wife Pauline, and so this might be the image which is in the exposition. So it's not Jonas as it's written there in the exposition. By the way, in the exposition you have only men. There have been also women. Yeah, and now we come closer to Ziggy Hože. These are the children of Max and Pauline, except the youngest one, Benno. So you have Rudolf, the big boss of the Moses Löw-Beer company, and then here you have the young Zilli Hože. And then the eldest sister, Anna, née Münch, and here Evelyn, née Pollack, and the child, 2 years old, this is Alfred, the owner of the house, Löw-Beer house, which is a museum now also, and the grandfather of my wife, and the father of Grete Tugendhat. So this is an image which was not known also to the family, but it is now published in this book of Michael Lambeck, which is a real authentic and scientifically written book, also with some refreshing irony. And it's written by Michael Lambeck, by the way, is the eldest son of the eldest daughter of Grete Tugendhat. So Hannah Weiss from the first marriage. So in here we have Anna Münch, who committed suicide. This is just 2 years before she did, and before she had to go into an exile. Evelyn and the family of Evelyn with her husband. And here you have the images of Hože, which should be here. The images should be exposed here in this house. And her husband, Cornel, and also the two her son and dědictví. The fate of Cili is, as you see here, the documents. She was first, after the protectorate, she was registered in Prague. We were discussing with Táňa why she moved to Prague. I don't know, perhaps they had to go to exile from, or they tried to get a passport in Prague or something like that. It is a fact that Cili lived on a different address than her two children, her son and his the young couple, Max and Friederike. And then they were transported in animal wagons, as you know, to Teresin in 42. They were transported in the 3 persons and different transports. Even the couple were separated. And from this transport, as you may read here, only from 1,002 people, only 64 survived. So, and it's somewhat cynic that the Dr. Lang registered then her death with these cynical words, enterocolitis marasmus, which is, this marasmus is the same as Altersschwäche. So this is, of course, you can say they murdered her. And this is the place where she died, the Red Point in Teresin. And Max and Friederike were some days after the transport to Teresin, transported to, again, in the same way, to Lublin, which is in the outskirts of Lublin. There is a well-known concentration camp, Majdanek, and there they were murdered. And there you have some documents of it, of Max. So, and just to Rudolf, within his workers, or his leading workers, in the middle you see, he's apparently the boss. And Rudolf, years later, in the 40s, in London, with Elise, you know, it's quite interesting that these 3 brothers married 3 sisters. This is this Wiedmann of Vienna. And something like, I always thought this must be written in the Guinness Book of Records. The three brothers marry three brothers. And I didn't meet Rudolf because I met Daniela only in '69. So I knew Grete Tugendhat, and I knew Marianne and some other acquaintances, but not Rudolf. So, and Ernst, you know, he was the owner of the famous villa you have in Brno, which, I hope that this house will be scientifically researched and studied and published, and it's a private home, so it can be made accessible to the public, at least at the moment now, because this is a very important piece of architecture, Rudolf Baumfeld, and in my possession is the original photo album, and hopefully I can give it to the Löw-Beer Museum, but the original owner, one of the descendants of Johann, the condition was that the house will be published, and the model will be made to be presented in the museum. So, and now we come, I don't want to go into detail in the Hože house because I was not involved in the study of the house and also not involved in nor the historical study nor the conservation study. So I will show you the picture of the original ground plan. But as from the ground plan, you see apparently that the house was considerably changed, enlarged, and the main changes, and so to say, have been done by Hože when she bought the house in 1909. Yeah, and before it has been, the owners were Lange. Oh, it hasn't been broken. And maybe she did also some smaller changes, especially at here we are. Yeah, this corner. Toilet here, and but as you see that here on this the bigger part was added then by. So the nowadays appearance from the facade and from the interior, also decoration and doors and so on, is mainly the origin of Hože. Yeah, here you have the plan of Antonia Lange, which was at least partly realized, but it was changed then, as you see now by Hože. And it, you know, you have heard that it was a kindergarten afterwards and so on. And then I stopped to speak about the Hože house, or Arnoldova Villa, as you call it, is the facade. As you see, the original the facade of Hože, and we know that she refacaded it. It was you have these corner stones made of plaster, of lime plaster, and this rough surface. And the rough surface, as you see, is as we call a plaster, which is produced as with a lime mortar, where the masons added more coarse grains, rubble stones. We call it in German Rieselputz. So it's like a rough-hewn stone. And as you see, you have on the one hand these bigger grains, and then you see also it's like drops, which is the binding media, the lime. When throwing the mortar on it, then you have it like drops. So, and there are also parts I didn't have the time to integrate the photos, where they put also some little holes with a bundle of wooden sticks. This is a very old technique to make a rough surface in a limestone. So this was the original surface of this rough. And so what you have here now, the reconstruction, is a totally different technique, which is produced by applying a very liquid mortar and then applying the trowel, metal trowel, on the surface, and then drawing it apart. And then you have this structure, a little bit like a cake of whipped cream, when you make your cake a little bit lively at the surface. So this has not much to do with the original surface. And speaking about the color, you see perhaps, friends, here, I don't know. Yeah, you see it here, and here, and here. This is all, it's the same surface. I'm sorry, I'm nearly 80, so. So what you see here is the parts of the original surface which has been changed by pollution. And the pollution is, below was an industrial town. It was mainly sulfate. So the lime was changed into gypsum. And gypsum has a totally different crystalline structure than lime. By the way, also bigger crystals, and therefore the color changes a lot. And with the dust and microorganisms, you have this greenish appearance, which has nothing to do with the original one. So now the actual paint now is somewhat of a mixture between the original color and the damaged color, so to say. Yeah, here you see the drops. Okay, just to tell you, which is quite interesting, that here you have the photograph of a plan of 1885. It's in the reproduction is bad, but you can easily recognize the three villas. You have heard of it, and you know which is the Anorgova villa or Hože villa, and you see that the garden is not anymore a vineyard. When Arnold built the house, it was a vineyard. This is in the sources written. So in between 1862, when he built it, and 85, they changed the vineyard into a English garden. And you see also in this drawing that the plot of the Tugendhat, of the Löw-Beer house, and the Tugendhat was still not an English garden, but as we know from other photographs, it was an apple garden or something like that, fruits. And then you have here the plan from 1909, exactly the year when Daniely Hože bought this house. Then you have here all the gardens, including the garden of the Löw-Beer house, with an English park. So, and I end with very positive images. As you see, we didn't know each other, and a lot of the family, which is dispersed all over the world, in all continents, Australia, in Asia, in Southern America, in North America, and of course, some of them also in Europe. And it was my wife once asked very gently to Moimir Jezabek, couldn't it be possible that we have a little family meeting in this newly restored Tugendhat house? And Moimir enthusiastically said, oh, this is a good idea. And together with meeting Brno and others, Susanna Hakulova was working for it, for instance. We started to work on it, and I started to try to find out descendants, and it was triggered by quite an unsavory fact. And this unsavory fact is that an Israeli lawyer wanted to make money by finding out lost assets. And he found out a insurance asset of the son of Daniely Hože, Max Hože, and to get this asset out of the bank, he had to find out all descendants of the grandparents of Max Hože. That happened, and in this way we got to know two people we never knew that of their existence before. This was the triggering point of this meeting in Brno. And what happened is that out of this plan to have a small family meeting in the house, it came out that finally we had 110 members of the family on the plot. And this is a photograph of, tell me, Židlicka. Židlicki. Oh. And yeah, it took place in May 2017. And since then, we started to look more. We had more information, and we found out photographs of people we didn't know, and from that also this book of Michael Lambert came out. And for instance, here in the Löw-Beer house, these are all descendants of Max Löw-Beer and Pauline, including our two sons. This is Matthias, my elder son. One is the younger one. Yeah. This is the politician. So, that's all what I wanted to say about the family history, and I would like to end with two wishes. The one wish is the question how we understand history, especially the history of the Jews in Czechoslovakia, and then of course now in Czechia. And as you know, in 1930 there have been 12,000 Jews in Brno alone, and mainly German speaking, and around 55,000 German speaking people in Brno in total, not being Jews. So the Jews included. So it was a quarter of the inhabitants of Brno which spoke at home German. And what is my wish? My wish is that historians, politicians, and also, of course, so-called normal people, should understand that these German-speaking compatriots, studying people, German-speaking but no inhabitants, are also after 1918, when Czechoslovakia was founded, have been members of the Brno inhabitants. So, to say it in short, German, the Jews, which are often called German Jews, were not German, they were Czech inhabitants. So, German-speaking Jews are not German Jews. This is important to understand, not only because to understand the history right, this is also a question of the moral interpretation of propertyship and all what is linked with it. And my second wish is refers directly to this house. I'm very happy, and I can say it of course in the name of the Löw-Beer Tugendhat family, that this house has not been sold on the capital market, but is property, public property, and publicly accessible. And what is more, and really this is touching to me, that is called a place of dialogue. And I would say one feature of this dialogue should be that the denomination of this plot, of this house and this garden should reflect the memory of the inhabitants. Of course, we know all the importance of Joseph Arnold as a builder and architect, and especially for the college here, so the Brno Ringstraße. And by the way, he was a German, Bavarian one. of course, he lived also in this house for nearly 21 years, 22 years, but he had his home was in the town, in the city. So this house here was his summer house. So then, in this sense, this house is really correctly called villa. But for Chili Hože and her husband and her son and her daughter-in-law, this house was not anymore a villa, but it was their home. Of course, not in the center of Brno, but it was then part of Brno, not anymore just a part outside of the walls of the Brno city. So normally, internationally, it's a custom that a house is called after the owners. In this case, you can call it Arnold, as it is, and you could call it Lange, as it is not, and you could call it Hože or Hože, which would be correct. As to my information, the authorities are not willing to change the name of the house. So I would propose, and this is also a proposal of the former Senator for Culture, Marek Fischer, at least to call the park, the open, which will be open for the public, to call the park Hože Park. So this would be a wish, and with that I wish this house a prosperous life and a prosperous and open and democratic dialogue. Thank you for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, so now there's a moment, if you have some potential questions, feel free to ask Ivo, so we can have a few minutes for this. Feel free to ask and don't worry. Go ahead.
Finally, I would like to know a little bit more about you. So what was your professional life? What did you do for a living?
What is you? Thank you that you are asking me, but it's my profession is I'm an artisan from training, gilding, we say in Austria, Kirchenmaler, first painting, line, plastering, things with this, dealing with surfaces on wood, and also conservation of paintings and so on. And then I continued as a conservator in the workshop of my father and my grandfather. And my great-grandfather was a conservator also, an artist, but I didn't know him at that time. And then I studied art history, and I nearly ended as a civil servant. I was head of mural painting and architecture service of the Federal Office of Heritage Protection in Austria for 25 years. And then I really ended as a university professor, and I was in Hildesheim, and there I was able to academize, as you could say, my profession, which was, because up to then there was no academic study for conservators, you know, restauratoren and restorers, this is the old word, for architecture service. So I was able to install the first academic master course for, and also you could also PhD in conservation of architecture surface. Worldwide, it is the first, and it will take some time if governments and architects will understand that you need for conservation of architecture not only just architects but also people who are able to analyze the materiality of the buildings and to be able to conserve it and to tell the artisans how to do it. Because normally in the training of architects, this is not the task. They are trained in designing and so on. Even there are some changes that we have lessons as an architect in materiality, but this is not the goal of the training. So this is the aim and the tragic of my profession.
Ivo, I have a question for you. But first of all, thank you very much for your fantastic talk. And I can totally agree with you by the point that I think that it should be named like Hože Villa, because we are now in the state of villa that was when Silly Hože left the house. So it will make more sense to call it Hože Villa than Arnold Villa, according to me. But my question is, what do you think will be the ideal life for the house, or the ideal exposition, how it should look like? Do you think that there should be some exposition about the life of Silly Hože and the family, or some events regarding to or related to this? Or
I was told by director Scholz, and also we spoke shortly with Dr. Mihola, that it is planned to do an exposition on the Hože family. I must confess, but this is just the beginning, and I know how difficult it was to come to not to an end, but to open the house in the year 24, because this was 23, because this was important for the funding. So I don't take what I've seen now for the final product, but I have the feeling, or the wish that in this house one should concentrate on the Löw-Beer family first. I have seen this famous Jewish man on this wall. One of them was from the Löw-Beer family. It was not Jonas, but Max, I guess. I don't. Well, and I thought the exposition should concentrate on and we have this Jewish museum in Prague. We have this Jewish museum planned in Brno. So I think it would be a good addition and a complementary addition if the exposition on the Jewish life should concentrate what happened here in this house and what is the relation between the cluster of these three houses, the oldest one, the Hože house, or Arnold Villa, and the Löw-Beer and then Tugendhat. So this is my opinion on the use of the house, and to speak about dialogue. But this is perhaps we can
Start the dialogue.
I would have some ideas, but we could speak together.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your part of this evening, and now let's go on to the dialogue. So let me invite here our good friend, I dare to say, and nice colleague and specialist for history, especially Jewish history and Shoah Holocaust. And now there is part of this dialogue between Ivo Hammerem and Táňa Klementová.
I hope nobody will go to sleep. So with
It would be better to have the lights.
We are working on it.
Not so much.
Thank you.
Could you shut these lights?
And while Ivo started to suggest some other names of the villa, I would add one more, because it could be also called Villa Martini, which I like the most from your list. Villa Martini, because one of the owner, it was the shortest period, was a lady called Martini, which is quite nice. And my second suggestion is that if it was previously a wine yard, all this area, maybe only symbolically can be one part of the garden dedicated to planting a new brand of wine called Brno Riesling. Or we will see. And there where my suggestions are finished. I have no more suggestions.
Yeah, well, just to add, because when I came in, I know that originally, and you have seen the bed photograph, that we had this English garden in the southwest of the house, and in the northeast of the house, you have this apple garden. And now we have a parking place. And I would prefer an apple garden. And perhaps with the change of climate, then we could plant some apricot or at least banana.
So when it turns to Vishvat, the New Year's of trees, Jewish festival in January, we can bring one banana plant, visit Mr. Schultz, and we can start. I like that idea. Thank you for your question. The first one from the audience, that was directly to Ivo, because I think the first part of his presentation was from the point of the family member, that he came to represent the family. I would like to speak with you more like with Ivo Hammer himself. So my first question is, when did you visit Brno for the first time? Which circumstances were around, and then we will continue.
Now this is a little bit touching for me, because it was we lived together, Daniela and me, since the 28th of June in 1970. And the 10th of December, the mother of Daniela Klementová was struck down by a car, and she died. And so, and as a word of sorrow, we went together with Ruth and her husband Zvi to Brno to see the house. Daniela had seen it before, because she had accompanied the house, her mother, when her mother had her speech invited by František Kalivoda, perhaps you know his name, for in the context of this international conference for the Tugendhat House in '69. And but for me it was the first time. We met also before the Czech teacher for Czech language, Mr. Pana, who taught my mother-in-law the Czech, because she was very keen to learn Czech. And our whole family learned Czech after 1980, at least. before. So my mother-in-law spoke fluently Czech. And so we saw the house in a state which was not so bad. It was a part of the university clinic Rosenal, you know, and it was very good maintained. And, you know, with a little mats for the. It was used as a rehabilitation center for physically handicapped children, especially children with spinal deficiencies, you know, kyphosis and scoliosis and so on. And you know, this was very well maintained, and I didn't expect that we will be welcomed very nicely, because of course in this time we were regarded as people who wanted their money back or something like that. I don't know. But, at least it was. We came in the house more or less in a clandestine manner, but we managed it. So it was all somewhat in the mood of sorrow that Käthe didn't exist anymore. I liked her very much. We had a very good relation.
We don't hear so much about that kind of nice relationship between mother-in-law.
The mother-in-law is
lucky
something. But just to tell you, she told Daniela that she liked me, and this was, so to say, the sanctification become a son-in-law.
How did your feelings about the city, maybe not so much about the house itself, but around the city of Brno changed during those 50 years? If has it changed? I don't know.
Listen, of course, my views are in a way a little bit limited. You know, I see things other people don't see, and perhaps I don't see things which I should see. So when I came to Brno, I didn't have illusions about the political systems. Even I was sympathetic of the idea, but I knew the practice and the crimes and all those things. And also I knew about 68 and what happened in 68 and so. But I was astonished about the state of maintenance of a lot of buildings. They were dirty, but they were not destroyed. Because I felt, and I have been in Prague the first time in 67, I saw the wonderful artisan tradition still alive in Czechia also. I saw it also then in 77 in Poland with these reconstructed towns, also the birth town of my mother, Hože. So this was a very positive aspect. Of course, it was also very positive. It was easy to take a tram. They were slowly, but you could even step in if they were driving. And the roads were bad, but you had a lot of public transport, and not so much cars and stinky cars as we had in Vienna. So this was perhaps not for you, but for me, it was, in this time it was a very positive aspect.
Thank you for that positive approach. And the day before yesterday, what kind of feelings were on your mind when you traveled by train from Vienna to Brno?
What did I say?
Well, you were sick, so maybe it was only about paracetamol.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. You know, because I couldn't hear. I wasn't sure if I could speak. Well, I thought I'm happy to come back to Brno, because since I was the chair of the International Expert Commission for the Tugendhat House restoration, and before I worked in the Tugendhat House together with the family since '88, and with my students since '97. And I have been with up to 60 students in the Tugendhat House, and they slept in the Tugendhat House on the floor. I couldn't stand. I tried one night to sleep in the sleeping room of my mother-in-law, but I couldn't stand. I was crying.
Well, you have mentioned that the family meeting in 2017 was some kind of a breaking point.
Yeah, this is true, because it's a big surprise, so much people. And you normally, you know, in a family, normally you have some beloved one, and you have a lot of people you don't want so much to see. Which is quite normal. And it was a big surprise that so much people coming around, and to have so much sympathetic people, and so much people who also, me as a non-Jew and so just a married member of the family, they appreciate so much the work I've done to find all these images and the relations and the kinship trees and so on. And Lucas said, "Isn't it possible that you find in this family a person which is not at least a professor or a doctor?" So he was also astonished to find out so much interesting people. And by the way, all these interesting people, or say most of them, had quite enough money in the pocket, but had nothing to do with money. They, up to the point that to speak about money is something which is not very serious. So you have it or you have it not. It doesn't care. What is important to speak about history, about scientific things, about policy, and so on. So, in this sense, it turned out that a lot of members of the family were really interesting. Yesterday, we had a thing with Iveta Černes showed a picture of a leaflet coming from the Communist Party. But before before the Second World War. So the question is, how can Livland of this communist Livland into this house of the high bourgeoisie? So, and I don't know the answer. What I know is that members of the family experienced a lot what capitalism means with the workers, and you know there have been big strikes in 37. And they didn't strike, this is interesting, for more salary. They struck, and that a lot of women among them, because it was textile factories, striking for less working time. And this is interesting because women in this time even needed more time because they had the double burden of working and treating dealing with family and children. And this time, as it's totally different today, as we know, now men even work with the dishwasher and are cooking and take half of the time for the children and the house household. Or I'm right? No. Okay, but let's say things have changed to some extent. A lot to do, but it's not finished.
When you introduced yourself, you said you're restaurer, art historian. So, which of the three villas attracts you the most?
You know,
difficult.
it's a question. I don't know, because it's in a profession, it's an important question. Because I always came to the point when conserving if I like the piece of art or not. Speaking of the three houses, or just to give an example, I keep staying in Vienna because I was asked several times to become this head of European contribution of the federal office, and the task was to conserve the frieze of Beethoven of Gustav Klimt, the main work of Gustav Klimt of 1902. So, and I'm not a very much follower of Gustav Klimt, because this decoration of the contradictions of life is not quite what I'm seeking in art. I prefer more, say, Courbet, for instance, or even Picasso, and or Léger, Jackson Pollock. So, speaking about these houses, of course, I was first smashed of the Tugendhat house, also because it was in a such good state of conservation. The onyx marble wall is untouched. The ground pillars are untouched, and the whole space was even in the state before the second restoration. It was really, it conveyed the original idea, and it is impressive. In contrary, this house was nearly falling apart, and it was difficult to come to here. And in the Löw-Beer house, well, it was a nice decorated style villa, but not a special piece of architecture. And in this time I didn't see the changes of Baumfeld in the interior, which are really impressive in the Löw-Beer house. So, what I've learned, so it's a little bit in a good marriage. Sometimes you fall in love, and then if you know her better, or him, you get disappointed. And then finally, you find out the qualities, which has oftentimes not much to do with the first impression. Because you find out the intrinsic qualities in the way. So, perhaps it's a very, a little bit queer comparison, but what I want to express is with the dealing with comes love. And finally, if I did conservation, I always fell in love with the piece. This was also the case with the frieze of Beethoven.
We should restore some Klimt. Well, you mentioned the book written by Michael Lamberg, masterpiece. Are there any white places, more white places in the family history which you think could be covered once, or do you expect there will be something new discovered in the future?
Yeah, it's ambiguous. On the one hand, this book is tremendously comprehensive. It's incredibly well, we helped him a lot. Comprehensive, and he collected informations we know at all. So, and what I like also that he's dealing so precisely with the context, also with the political context, the historical context. And but we are far from knowing enough from the history. You know, just speaking about Hože, we don't know where they came to Prague. We know nearly nothing from Hože and his family. And perhaps you know much more than me, but we should hurry up. There are not much people left in this family who know a lot about the family, and I'm very grateful to people like Roman Smysly and Radovan Kramer, who work hard to document history in their films, and they also documented the meeting Brno, and they are here now also. Even I told them only 4 days ago that this will happen here, but they come. So I only can say we need a lot of scientific forces to, like you, like Dr. Mihola, like Susanna Ragulova, and much other people I don't know so much, to work on the history. It's not because it's a special family. All people are important. But what is important in this context is the family is somewhat nearly a metaphor of the history of Czechoslovakia and Czechia, and of course also of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. So, and therefore it is important to know more about this history. Not because of the family itself. I think the family of my father, not to speak of my mother, because she's coming from a Prussian military, and so I don't want to go in detail. But my father's history is interesting because this family is somewhat also a metaphor, me included, of the development of the profession of conservative restorers, which is still not finished. So the history of the Löw-Beers and Tugendhats include all what is significant. This is a word for the history of this beloved country.
Always the history of one exact family is like a probe, sonda, into the big history necessary, such as the history of places, history of one house show us so many phenomena, how it was. I saw the clock, which I can't believe, but perhaps it's our event is coming to its end. Thank you for the comparison with the marriage. I think I got inspired in my marriage.
I have 53 years experience.
Okay, next event will be dedicated to tell us how to do it, how to manage. Thank you for your nice and friendly attention. And please, Peter, come back.
It presses. I want to thank you to Meeting Brno in general, and especially to Peter Kalusek and David Maciek and the other who work hard for Meeting Brno and make this happen. And it was a pleasure for me to speak with you, and that you gave us the possibility to sit here and to have interested people like you to listen. Perhaps something are interesting for you.
Thanks a lot for this same thing. You, now, ladies and gentlemen, just pretty important information. We still have some wine here, so feel free to stay a little longer with us, and if you want to, you can make some small donations for us, which will help us to organize our Meeting Brno Festival in 2024. Please follow us on Facebook, check our website. We will prepare more events like this even before the main event, which will take place last 10 days in June 24. For now, let's spend more time together. Let's drink wine and water. And for this moment, the most important thing is to say again thank you to Zbigniew Scholz and the Muzeum Města Brna, and to Táňa Klementová and Daniely.